Hello everyone, Otis here, bringing you another pre-release gameplay video of the Ranger class in Neverwinter. For those of you that are new or returning to the game, the Ranger is the next playable class that will be released with Neverwinter's next expansion, Module 2, the Dread Ring. The expansion is scheduled for release on the live server, Thursday, December 5th. In my last video, I talked about the Ranger class as well, with a focus on the Ranger's archery tree, and I received a couple of requests from viewers to make another video, this time focusing on the Ranger's melee tree, so here it is. Gotta get out of my video, man. Unlike in my last video, because the Ranger is squishy, the idea was to get in and out of melee combat as soon as possible and take enemies out with ranged abilities. With a melee focused Ranger, I wanted to flip that around, where you're charging into melee most of the time and getting out when you have to. Here's some gameplay footage of my Ranger on the test server. Let's check it out. Okay, as you can tell, this class is highly twitch-based, so timing and movement for the Ranger in general is just critical for you to survive. Taking a look at my character sheet here, you'll see I'm using all the same gear as I was in my last video. It's a mixture of T1s and blues, and nothing exotic, just a bunch of rank 7 and rank 8 enchants. I mean, the idea here was to get a feel for what, just like my last video, get an idea for what end game is going to feel like once I hit 60 and I start moving into that end game content. The only real difference between the two builds in my last video is using a greater Plague Fire enchant. In this video, I'm using a perfect Life Drinker enchant for this build. Reason being is, if you're not familiar with it, the perfect life drinker gives you an 8.8% additional damage and necrotic damage, and then heals you for that amount. So as you're dealing as a melee-based character, you go and you're really squishy, you're going to get hit a lot. So I find this helps out to try to keep you alive. If I were in a group where there was a healer, something like that, I might change that out and try a Whirlpool or something different. But I find as a solo melee ranger, this helps to keep me alive. Taking a look at my ability scores here. Now they've nerfed, no, not nerfed, but they've broken the respec token, so I couldn't try different points, so I couldn't move these around. So I was kind of stuck with what I had for my last pre-patch build, but I'm actually pretty happy with it. The 21 strength and 21 wisdom. So this is strength wisdom build with a 20 dex. The character actually performs pretty well. I'm kind of happy with the way it performs in melee. Looking at my powers, you can see I've got 5,100 in power, 1,500 in critical, and 1,900 in armor pen. Let's take a quick look at my boons. Got a lot going on. Just got 1 point in from the Sharandar campaign. Got 1 point in here, 250 power. In the Dread Ring campaign, I've only got 2 points, and I put them in power movement versus critical movement, and 250 in lifesteal over 250 regeneration. Just find lifesteal is better in general, given this character's squishiness. I'm just getting as much life back as I can from melee, or let's say from combat. Going into powers. Actually, let's go into my feats. I'm not going to go into powers, so I'll talk about that after I'm done with my feats. Looking at feats, you'll see I have 3 points in toughness, 3 points in critical chance, 3 points in agile combatant. Alright, this adds 3% more damage, 5 seconds when you're switching stances, so yeah. You are a hybrid still, so you're not going to be standing toe-to-toe with everything, trying to face roll everything. You're going to have to switch back and forth between stances to maximize your DPS and for survivability, so this gives you a little boost. Swift footwork, your stamina regenerates 10% faster. Now, if you look at my last video, Nature's Enhancement, I put 5 points in there last time. I put nothing in there now. They've changed this. It used to be 25% for 5 seconds when switching into melee. Now it's 5%. That's not a whole lot. 5%. If I should deflect, the severity will be an additional 5% less. Not a whole lot. It's negligible. So I find putting the points into stamina, I will get more regeneration and stamina, therefore more evades, and because as a ranger, you're evading, you get that one second of immunity for dodge. So yeah. Lucky Skirmisher, 3 points deflection chance there. 3 points, not a whole lot, but every little bit helps. Disciple of Dexterity, put 3 points there, additional 6% boost to your bonus to your damage based on your dex. Okay, now I move into the combat tree. I put 1% in stamina, so I get 1%. Your melee attacks generate 1% of your stamina, so pretty good. It's a little boost to my stamina when you add that up with 10% boost I'm getting over here. Agile Hunter, your melee encounters reduced cooldown of your ranged encounters by 1%. 1 second rather. So yeah, you are going to be switching back and forth between stances. So this helps to make sure that your range skills are ready to go when you need to get into ranged. Lethal Hunter, Got 5 points in that. 15% additional damage in melee. 5 points in Elusive Hunter. Now this gives you an additional 10% to your deflection chance, so that was pretty good. I mean, if I was running in a group with, running dungeons a lot, I might switch this out. I might change up some of these points, meaning I'd probably put the 5 points instead of moving them into my deflection chance. I might put them in Nature's Blessing, since I'm getting a 20% boost to my healing. If you've got a competent healer and you're avoiding a lot of damage, then yeah, this would this wouldn't really be necessary. You might be better off getting that. Looking at next skill, I got Bleeding Precision. That's additional 10% to my crit damage. And finally, Master of Combat. Your melee attacks have a 17% chance to strike twice. The second attack deals weapon damage and cannot be mitigated. So, yeah, great. Cannot be mitigated. Weapon damage, 17% chance. I mean, come on. Really? It's not like you're putting out, ridiculous numbers that, the weapon damage can't be mitigated. So 70%, I don't know where these guys get these numbers, but might not be 50 or 18, but I don't know. It is what it is. Look over here. Go to the next tree. I put 5 points in Black Arrow. Your ranged attacks crit with 10% more critical severity. Now, like I said, if I were in a dungeon, if I were running with a party more often, and this was a dungeon, build I was running frequently, then I would definitely move some of these points around and probably move that out. I'm not sure where, but just looking at it overall, some things I would definitely take into consideration once this goes on a live server and I hit 60. But as a standalone melee DPS character, I find this build works pretty well. So, taking a look at my powers real quick. I'm not going to go through the whole list to show you what I took. Okay, got Aspect of the Serpent, one of my faves, builds stacks of damage. When you're in range stance, it builds melee stacks. When you're in melee stance, it builds range stacks. Next, I took Twin Blade Storm. Now this is just an additional boost for 4% boost of damage when you're attacking more than 2 enemies. So, next, Marauder's Rush. Okay, another one that will save your neck and getting you in and out of combat when you're in range stance. It will give you an escape. When you're in melee stance, it gives you a rush. So let me switch over to melee stance, or range stance rather, and then I'll go through it on melee. So again, this is Marauder's Escape. To dash away, hindering shot. This again gives you 3 points of up to 1966 damage, physical damage on your enemy. Plus it gives a weak grasping root. So, and Fox Cunning, which is just a straight out dodge, which I find comes in handy. So when I'm going into a fight, this guarantees at least on the initial hit, if I get jumped by something, that at least I get that initial dodge out. Next, my at wills, I've got Rapid Shot, bread and butter skill, and Split Shot. Most of you guys know Split Shot. They've changed I think they changed it to give you at least, was it like 2 seconds or something, conal thing. So it's a cone-based at-will attack, if you're not familiar, and it's pretty hard. Alright, switching to my melee stance. You can see my Marauder's escape, which is now a rush, so gets me into a fight from ranged. I've got hindering strike. So yeah, this is pretty cool because what happens is I'm getting into a fight, and this applies a strong grasping roots. So I get into a fight and I'm hitting my enemy, but I need to get out. I can hit him with a hindering strike and then switch to range to a Marauder's escape, and basically my enemy is pinned. They can't move. So it gives me some time to build up those aspects of the serpent stacks from a melee, or from a range stance, I should say. Next, we got Fox Shift, which is another, when you're in the range stance, is a dodge. When you're in melee stance, it does damage up to three enemy. It's a dodges between each one of them and hits them for about 2,000 damage, so it hits pretty hard. So I find that to be great for dealing with dispatching of like small groups of people really quickly. Alright, looking at the at-wills now, we got Rapid Strike. This is bread and butter for building aspect of the serpent stacks when you're in close combat. And Split Strike, which I find another skill that I depend on for survivability, meaning when I'm dodging in and out of red circles, or just dodging away from the enemy from a swing, from getting hit, I can jump right back into the fight with Split Strike. This is a quick dash, dashes right back into combat, and hits them for a decent amount. So let's look at my dailies. I've taken Disruptive Shot. Disruptive Shot is disrupt, interrupt. Works well, especially against those enemy that are using a potion, or if you want to interrupt a caster, you have an interrupt. And Forest Ghost. Forest Ghost, in my last video, I was kind of on the fence about it. Didn't have a whole lot of exposure to using it, and I find that in a melee build that this helps out a lot in that it's a stealth. So if things get a little hairy and you need to reposition, buy yourself a little bit of time for survival, this will come in handy. So you pop Forest Ghost, and this allows you to reposition yourself, get back into control of the fight, and then get back into the fight, I should say, or get out of it if need be. And I think that pretty much covers it. Awesome. Well, I want to thank everyone for watching the video. Of course, leave your questions or comments below. And thanks for watching. Take care, all.